I was reading on Twitter about so both of you know that the actual headset itself has haptics, right? It's not just the controllers. The actual headset has haptics.
Hmm.
Like I knew that, and I thought it was weird when I read that, so I think I did know that.
So apparently there's a kayak game like that you can go kayaking on in PSVR 2. So sounds chill. It actually looks gorgeous. But they were actually showing where somebody was like going under something and like bumped their face into something, and apparently the face haptics like react to that. So I was like, oh great. I don't want to bump my head in real life. Now I can do it in VR.
I thought you were gonna go with like, if you tip over in the kayak underwater, like the headset fills up with water. Like, that's where I thought you were. Yeah, that's where I thought you were going with
Forging
that.
for real.
I mean, you can still breathe. You just have water in your.
Welcome to the Gaming Trend Podcast, the official podcast of GamingTrend.com. My name is Anthony Shelton, and I am joined by David Burdett.
Hello there.
And the Noah Rigsby.
Oh, I like the. It's very hypes my ego up. I appreciate it.
Rhymes with Rigsby, too.
That
In
is-
this podcast, we talk about the latest games we could get our hands on. We talk about games in our backlog we should have played a long time ago, and games you absolutely need to play. We also squeeze in news now, too. So, this week, we never talk about Call of Duty enough. So, Season 2 dropped. So now we got an excuse to talk about more Call of Duty. Noah played some X-Defiant, God bless his soul. We'll talk about that. We'll also talk about Overwatch 2 and a little preliminary thoughts on Wild Hearts. We also got some news. So let's start with Call of Duty Season 2. David, I'm sure you got a little bit of time in with it because that is your baby. That is your bag, even though I know you're reviewing a very important game. So what's your thoughts?
So I definitely took some time the other day, had to make sure I was in there on release day because you got to check it out. You got to at least get a foundational understanding of everything going on. And you know what? I'm pretty pleased, at least at the start of the season. Museum, that was a map from the beta. We all talked about how we actually had a discussion last podcast. It didn't make it in, but there was some frustration with the 6v6 maps, how Activision, or not Activision, but Infinity Ward, the only things we were getting were Museum, which is from the beta. It got pulled out from what we understand, legal reasons, and then Dome, which is a remake of the Modern Warfare 3 Dome that we already got a remake of in Vanguard and that exists on the Warzone map. It's like, come on, you've got so many awesome locales on that Warzone map. Why are we not getting high rise? Why are we not getting a regular version of Terminal? Because they did it as a battle map. It's like, come on, man. This should be easy to figure out. So there's been lots of frustration. Funny enough, not today, but yesterday, when they were dropping all the new seasonal information, they went ahead and were like, hey, we have a 6v6 map that has been testing really well. We're going to go ahead and push that up into Season 2 as part of the Reloaded. They do that mid-season refresh. And so we're getting a new map, and they've even showed off a screenshot so we know they're not secretly hiding another remake in there. Or another map that somehow we played in beta and didn't know about. But that's the good thing, is that they're listening. They heard the discourse. That was the first time I'd already ever mentioned to PR when I'd talked to them of, hey, not exactly happy with the 6v6 offerings. Please pass that on. And you know what? We're winning on that one. We get another map, but I think we're kind of winning, at least with Museum. I don't know where Noah's head is with it, because I know he was in there playing with us during it. I really like the map. There aren't a lot of very large maps, and while there are some spawns that I'm like, I don't like the big spawn on the back of the building, and it takes like 20 seconds just to get around to where you want. I do like the size of the map. I think there's some really good locations. There's not a lot of, if it makes sense, cheese spots on Museum where you can just get and like nobody can remove you out of that position. You really have to fight for your positioning, and really just win gunfights. So that's really good. Dome did not play many of those, but it doesn't feel as clustered as previous Dome has felt. Like Vanguard's Dome felt very closed in whenever I was playing it. The radar, I believe, is what they called it in there. And Dome here feels like it feels good. Like it's not, it's still not going to be much different than what you remember, and it's not the best. It's still not one of the best maps in the game. It just isn't. But it's not as bad as I was worried about. So that is a good thing. We actually won a headquarters match on that, which is essentially, I believe it's strongholds in Halo, where you go and you sit, or well, that's domination, I think. It's, I don't know, it's the one where a point appears and you've got to capture it and hold it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I
Near the hill.
don't. They probably handle it a little bit different. It's really interesting how headquarters is handled in Call of Duty, because essentially you have a hill that pops. Whoever captures it first suddenly has no respawns, and the enemy team does. And essentially you have to hold that hill as long as you can. You accumulate points per second. And once you get cleared off the hill, your respawns for the team holding the hill, the other team jumps on it and desyncs it, I guess, or whatever, however you want to call it, and then it moves on to, everybody goes back to respawn, and then you go back to the next hill. So it's like this constant cycle of, trying to get the hill first, and then of course trying to survive. So we were actually able to chain a couple hills once I figured out how to play the mode, because that was the first time I've ever played headquarters.
Oh, what?
Yeah, I stick with Old Faithful Team Deathmatch Search and Destroy Hardpoint. So
Okay, well, there we go.
so far I've only gotten to play with one of the guns in the update, the ISO, and it's a surprisingly good gun. It's a assault rifle. I'm getting a little annoyed with how loose assault rifle is in Call of Duty, because so far we have a couple of weapons that I would imagine are more SMGs. The AK-74U is an SMG. It is not a assault rifle, but it is in the assault rifle category. It was in Cold War. It was an SMG, but it's an assault rifle in Modern Warfare. The ISO in Modern Warfare 2019 was in fact an SMG, but it's a assault rifle in Modern Warfare 2. So I'm not sure why we keep getting all these guns in assault rifle category, because there's enough assault rifles. I think there's like 12 assault rifles now in Modern Warfare 2. But it still moves quickly, so it's a lot closer to a submachine gun. And I know some of my teammates were like, the recoil on this stinks. Why does this gun suck so bad? I was, you can ask Noah, I dropped a 50 bomb on one of the maps we were on with it. And it's if you know how to control vertical recoil, like my biggest thing with any gun, there's horizontal recoil, you're going to have a lot of issues. But if you've got vertical recoil, you can learn how to play with it to control it. So the ISO is pretty good. I'm using it just plain Jane, no attachments or anything. It's got really great iron sights and a pretty quick kill speed. It's not as quick as, like, say, the Scar or anything like that, but it's pretty good. It's like I said, a lot closer to an SMG. We only got to play Ashika Island, the new Warzone map, once, but man, had a lot of fun with it. Like, I don't know about Noah, but that was, to me, like, we've enjoyed playing Warzone on Al Mazrah recently. I think I had as much, if not more, fun on Ashika Island than I have the entire time we've been playing Warzone. What do you think, Noah?
I I want to commentate, but I also don't feel like I have the credibility to, because I found like a well like that you pour water, and I was like, that rope looks a little sus. And I looked down and I was like, oh, I can go down there, and there's actually a bottom level to the map. And so they're up there fighting for
Underground
their
tunnels, yeah.
lives. Fighting for their lives, and Noah's just swimming around in a little pool, like looking around, like, "Oh, look at all these chests! I got so much loot!" And they're over there screaming, like, "Help!" And I'm just down there having the time of my life. Like, did you guys know there's a second, like, bottom area of this map? And they're like,
I'm down, Noah. I'm
"Yeah,
down.
yeah." And they're over here, like, we got to move because the circle's closing in. I'm just down there chilling, getting boxes, and I finally found a rope. I was like, I guess I'll go back and help, and then I died like 5 times because I was just, oh, look, because it's such a beautiful map.
It is.
It really is. And I told you, I really hope that they take, like, they don't have to, like, copy paste, but I would love a multiplayer map in, like, that setting, part of that island, because it looks gorgeous.
Which this season is, it's trying to think of the right word for it. It's, I guess, Asian themed with the
I
way
would
that
say,
they're
like,
doing it, the
samurai.
Japanese samurai
Yeah.
theme.
Yeah.
So they're going with this whole, like, one of the things you can actually unlock knife wise is you've got the dual, like, short katana, and one of the characters, his name is Ronin. He's one of the operators you can pick up. But when you actually fly over the island in the first Resurgence map, like, Noah noticed it too. The names of the locations, you see them below, but they kind of floated in Japanese cherry blossoms, was what it kind of floated in as. So it was just this neat presentation. And there's this big Japanese castle in the middle. I think it's Suki Castle, if I'm not mistaken, which is the new Tilted. Like, everyone is going to drop there and fight each other. But I know we were talking about it last time, Anthony, but I'm so happy Resurgence is back in this game. Like, it makes the game so much more enjoyable knowing that if I die, I'm not just straight dead. As long as my team survives. Like, do you remember how long of a counter you had, Noah? Because we just straight up died when
It was, I would say,
when I survived the whole time.
yeah, because I was like,
I didn't get no counter.
I don't, they don't like playing with me because I'm a shark. Like, I hear gunshots and I just run, even if I have no weapons. I just run.
That's
'cause I
why
want to play.
Resurgence works, though.
My counter, I didn't check.
Like, was it 10, 15 seconds? Or
it was around that. It was under 20 for sure. Like, I would
Okay.
guess around 10 to 15. And I don't know if that increases if, like, more than one person goes down or something like that. I don't know how the counter adjusts. But
I think
it was
it's
not a
either
very
based
long
on the circle or how many times you've died. I don't remember which one. I think
Yeah,
it's
it
circle
was-
based.
like I said, I definitely under 20 seconds. So pretty good. I would say a fair time, because if you can't team wipe, in 20 seconds after getting that first down, then they're probably going to escape anyways. And so it's kind of a, you each go your own way and then reset.
It makes your team have to make those decisions of, do I play my life until my teammate can come back, or should I engage this other team anyway? Like, you have to make those on the fly decisions, and because it's so much smaller of a map, like, it's small. Like, this is a, I don't remember the exact comparisons, but Rebirth and Fortune's Keep, those still feel bigger than what this is. This is not as big as some of the other Resurgence maps, which wouldn't be surprised given how quickly they've put this out. But man, it's just, I love it because it's like taking the Call of Duty multiplayer and turning it into Warzone. It's just so much faster because they're forcing you to be A, close quarters, but B, I've got a little less worry about dying and it being the end. So I'm pushing, I'm rushing, I'm just moving it and trying to take these guys out. And I can tell these are the guys that did Fortune's Keep because that location was fantastic, and this one feels that like everything. There's not a lot of dead space. on this map from what we played. Like there's
Mhm.
buildings, there's hills, there's rocks to climb around on. Like that they have made use of every bit of this map from the little bit that we have been on, and I'm just loving it so far. Like it's just
Yeah.
really good.
And then I'm sure you saw it, but talking about like in I don't know if they did this the first time around because I didn't play when they first were doing the resurgence. But like in standard Warzone, you can't see the chests that contain weapons. Um, you kind of hear an audio cue that lets you know that you're near one. This on the map, it actually had like orange boxes on the
Hmm.
mini map that would show you where the like gold chests, if you want to call it, were. So it definitely incentivizes players to fight because you're giving them gear. They know where they can go to get good gear and fight over it. So it's kind of they're like fight my little minions, like they're kind of enticing us to fight. So
As worried as Activision has been over the numbers on Warzone, which they have a right to be concerned about them, as well as you got to start thinking about COVID gave you a really nice boost. It's going to be real hard to duplicate everybody stuck in their house with nothing to do. Like you just can't get the same kind of numbers right now. That being said, Ashika Island could very well save Warzone. Like it is that good of a map, and I love how it's actually 52 players is the resurgence limit. So I just love it. They're doing a great job with it. I'm enjoying the little bit that I've done with it. And what's even cooler, we're getting Warzone ranked soon. So that they're working their way into competitive, which should give an even longer life cycle to this game. They just added ranked in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. We just haven't had a chance to play that yet. we we had
for
too
good
big of a
reason.
part.
For good
We
reason.
had too big of a party, but also they're starting everybody in bronze this time around. So we're giving it a couple days so the real sweats can work their way up. So we'll have a little bit easier of a time at the beginning. So
Yeah, we're letting the juggernauts fight it out. Let them get out of our, I guess, range that we'll probably end up being. So it's that fun time of when you do like a complete reset. It almost feels like utter chaos.
yep.
Um,
You mentioned numbers. Are they really that bad?
I'd have to look it up. I just know that they have not, like, it was dropping off at a much higher rate than they were. The player counts were dropping. Let's see here. January 16th, and this is a report from Digzerto. They said that the Warzone 2 player count was dropping faster than expected, with frustrations mounting. And they said, and the biggest thing was it was dropping quicker than expected from November, which was a concern for Activision. Some of it was just the fact of the meta was exactly the same, which they still need to kind of adjust the meta, in my opinion, from the little bit we got to play. Because so there were two guns that pretty much run the show in Warzone, and that was the RPK and the Finnick. It was a LMG and an SMG, and because of the way you could run that, there was no reason to run anything else. Truly, like you might mix a sniper in there for some long range, but there was no reason to run any other two weapons together. It still was closer, but those were absolute meta. Whereas then you had all these other things going on in Warzone where, because of being able to pick up bigger backpacks, you could store, like, if you get a large backpack, you could store so many kill streaks. And so, like, our first Warzone win, I had like 3 precisions, and I also had like 3 self revives. So I never really went down. I just kept picking myself back up every time we would engage, and I would go down and just have the guys just fire over the top of me to try and keep me good. And it worked. We won our first one, but I think it's more than just, oh, we don't like the map. I honestly think it's more the fact that they started listening. They're like, look, people don't like the 2v2 gulag. Okay, we're going back to 1v1. People don't like this backpack thing. We're not going to do backpacks anymore. People don't like, which some of it came from DMZ, and those were ideas that they were trying to mix together. But they're like, people don't like that they're having to find a 3 plate when they drop in. Okay, you all start with 3 plates. Like there's these things that are like the community asked for it, and they're changing it, and that's always good to see. Like it really annoys me when you have people get onto a studio after they change things like, oh, you never should have changed this in the first place. It's like, bro, they listened. They did like, am I going to give them all the credit in the world? Like they just magically changed the game? No, but at the same point, if a company listens, that is a step in the right direction. If they're actively changing things in the game to make it better, sure. Should they have changed it in the first place? Maybe not, but you try something new, it doesn't work, you try to adjust it as you can. That's just playing a new video game.
Yeah. Well, a lot of it's hindsight, it's 2020. They got to try stuff, and you don't know how it's going to land until you put it out in live.
Yep. And when you're as big as Call of Duty is, you're going to get a lot of feedback.
Yeah. And it's, it's what they do with that feedback. And, like you said, they're listening. It's been really good to see. Like I'm not the biggest Warzone fan. It's a good like break from the standard multiplayer. But yeah, Resurgence, just from that one, it felt, like a resurgence of the mode. It's very appropriately named, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So all right, well, I was just curious.
Yep.
People talk about Destiny 2's dead, and then it's got millions of players. So when you talk about Activision being concerned, I'm like, are y'all really concerned? But I suppose they're comparing impossible numbers.
And that's a big issue for a lot of people right now. Stop comparing these, like you said, impossible numbers. Some of these numbers just are not going to be repeated.
No. Yeah. Not everybody's sitting at home, like you said. Then you have to adjust those percentages.
All right.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll join you guys for a Resurgence game, and
you got
it. You won't have to be.
You better carry. You better be ready to carry. The amount of times that I feel like they have to put me on like a leash because they hear gunshots and like, no, get back here. So
I wasn't telling you that. We were both rushing them, Noah.
Yeah, it's a fun time.
And I'm the one. I'm like, guys, I only got a pistol. Like, what am I supposed to do?
Hold on, I'm trying to find a real gun.
Yeah. You guys are like, well, if we go get the people, you could go get a real gun. And I'm like, okay.
I'll throw teammates at him if I run out of ammo. I'll throw anything. I don't care. I just fight.
Oh no, they fixed the bug yesterday. Apparently the plates were not auto-equipping.
That's what I was going to bring up. Mm-hmm. I was going to be like, a slight thing, Activision. You gave us 3 plates, but you only equipped us with 2. We dropped in, and I was like, guys, we got plate up. Like that sounds weird, because we're supposed to get 3 plates. So
well, no, that still is true. Like you still have to find a plate for that last plate, but what happened was, how you actually have plates in your inventory. You would actually have to go and equip like that first time before it would start throwing it into your to be able to actually put them in.
Plate up.
Yeah, so that you couldn't plate up. So that was part of the problem. Yeah, they fixed that issue.
Then they need to fix it to where you don't.
Because you know how you kept saying, I don't have plates? You may have had plates. They were just in your inventory.
Okay, that makes sense then. Because I was like, no, you need to plate up all that, bro. I'm broke. I don't know what you want me to. I mean, I saw a box I can, Metal Gear Solid if I need to plate up or something, but I'm struggling.
Yeah, you might have had stacks on stacks on stacks inside your inventory and just needed to equip it.
See, it was in my credit account, and I needed to transfer it over to my checking. That's what it was.
That's the problem.
All right. Well, it sounds like season 2 is off to a decent start, so that's positive. The off the record talk that we had, you didn't sound like you were as excited for it, but now that you're playing
No.
it, you sound more pleased.
Well, the 6v6, my biggest issue was I wanted a new map in there, and we're getting that. So I've always been super excited for Ashika. It sounded like a fantastic addition. I'm just glad to see it is.
Sweet. All right. Let's talk about some Wild Hearts.
Woo!
EA.
Let's go wild.
Yeah. EA. I guess they unlocked the demo. If you have Game Pass Ultimate or EA Play, then you can play Wild Hearts first 10 hours. So, David, you played it. I played a little bit of it. I'm probably an hour in, and I got past the first section. It's no spoiler. You fight this behemoth boss, and you are
What
meant
spoiled?
to lose. Yeah, well, you're meant to lose. So if you didn't know that, you
Oh, I found out. I was like, why is this happening?
Yeah,
why am I doing no damage?
Thrown around. I was like, oh my gosh, I got a one attack and I can't dodge. I can't do any of that stuff very well. I was like, they are breaking you into this. And then I was like, oh yeah, I was not meant to win this fight at all. Okay, that's comforting. What's the evolution of this going to look like? So this is Koei Tecmo's version of Monster Hunter. That is, I think, the best description I can give for it. The differences I was hoping it would have from watching the trailers, you can use gadgets, and from what it looked like from the trailers, the combat speed was faster. So that's what I was looking forward to. I haven't had access to gadgets yet because I just haven't gotten to that section of the game. So I can't comment on that, but that's a clear distinction from Monster Hunter. I just don't know what it feels like yet. David, you might be able to speak on that.
I haven't gotten much of it, but it's like if Monster Hunter was Fortnite. That's the way it kind of feels a bit right now. Because I like rapidly build box, jump off it, and slam down on a creature. That's the only thing I've got right now is building a box.
My boy's cranking 90s on some monsters, dude. Let's go.
Yeah, that okay. I can see that. I suppose not quite the way I would describe it, but
it does feel faster than Monster Hunter, though.
So that's the thing. It does feel faster than Monster Hunter, but it's still not fast enough. What it looked like in the trailers to me was I thought it looked like Ninja Gaiden speed, Metal Gear Solid Revengeance kind of speed. I was like, okay, yeah, this is more like action style. Okay, instead of these unnecessarily long windups that you have to do in order to do an attack. So I start playing it, and there are unnecessarily long windups. They're just a little bit faster than Monster Hunter, and I'm not a fan of that. I am of the mindset this is not how it would actually go if you're hunting. And I'm not over here advocating for hyper realism in video games. That's not what I'm suggesting. But if I got a wolf dog thing trying to attack me, I don't have time to wind up. I need to swing when I want to swing. So if these characters are hurling weapons that they take too long to swing, y'all need to use a lighter weapon. Okay, that's my mindset. Like this is entirely too long. Now, some of the attacks have longer wind up because they're stronger attacks, but even still, I just feel like it's unnecessary. And it makes it even worse when the enemies start standing there a little bit because the game has to allow you a moment to get in the attack. So you gotta find those moments. But most of the time you're attacking, you're running, you're trying to find open spots to be able to attack. And yeah, I just wish Monster Hunter and didn't go in that direction. I wish Wild Hearts also didn't go in that direction, but it is a little bit faster. So I will give it that credit, but I wish It was more realistic in the sense of uh, if I wanted to swing my sword at the speed I want to swing it, I'm going to swing it at the speed I want to swing it, and the enemies should also react in such a way. You know, no real dog is just gonna stand there and just let you attack it for a moment. No, they gonna do their own dodging and doing all that stuff. I feel like that would be more challenging and more interesting than what we are getting. So I'm waiting for a developer to create that. With that said, it still looks fun. So I'm gonna play more of it, but the things that I was looking for, a little disappointed with it. We'll see what happens with the gadgets, but combat speed still not what I would want. What'd you feel for it, David?
I mean, I'm in the same boat as you. I'm more the like you said, fast action. Like I really enjoyed the Kingdom Hearts series as a kid. So it needs to be going fast, 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 smack, 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 do all these things. I do wonder if some of that will change depending on upgrades.
Yeah,
And like you said, maybe there are some other maybe there's some other weaponry you can use because some of the trailers definitely seems like certain characters were using much faster weaponry than I was.
yeah,
So I'm also very new to the genre. I played very little of the of Monster Hunter World. I believe was the one that came out on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. And I did not know that apparently there's no health bar on the monster. You just smack it until it dies. And that is something I've had to kind of learn playing the little bit that I have. I beat one of the first monsters and then was pretty close to taking out another one before it killed me. So it is very interesting. I guess my biggest thing with this one is they do a good job of letting you know exactly where you need to be going. And like you said, it's at least incrementally faster than Monster Hunter, so I don't feel like I'm this extremely slow, bulky, held down dude, which is what I feel like in Monster Hunter. So it's more for me. It's more approachable. Could it be a little faster? Yes, but I have enjoyed what I've done in it, and it's actually got me more interested in the genre compared to what Monster Hunter has done, where I've been like, this just does not feel good to me. This is a little too. This is expecting me to do too much. Whereas this is a lot more of a hey, just have fun, go hunt monsters, and it is cool. One of the biggest things that you run into, or at least it used to be a thing that I had a really big issue with back in the day, was it felt like games were just totally just screwing up boss fights. I'm a huge fan of glorious boss fights. Love a really good boss fight. And when you can base a game and do it well around boss fights, like it is with these Monster Hunter, Wild Hearts kind of style monsters, giving us these unique creatures to hunt. That's just like boss fight the game. You don't get that from anything else beyond something like Shadow of the Colossus, or what's the other one? Like the Dark Souls, Demon Souls kind of games. So it's nice to have another game in that, especially one that pulls more people in, considering that's one of the genres that is not oversaturated right now. We have so many video games out there for everybody's a Souls like, everybody's a roguelike, everybody's a this free everybody's a battle royale.
First shooter. Yeah.
We don't have a ton of what Monster Hunter is. We don't have a ton of these Monster Hunter games, so it's kind of nice to see somebody come in, put their own spin on something. It's definitely not a clone. That is something I've definitely taken away from my time with it. It has its own feel, and it has the like I said, that once you get to the building, it definitely adds a different aspect where you're at least thinking about it. But it doesn't overcomplicate what you're doing either. With like you have to pick up the life thread, which is in the game to be able to build stuff, but it's not this super complex thing at all. Like you run up to a pile of rocks and knock it down, and you can do that in the middle of battle. So it's not this thing that you're like. I would assume maybe when you start getting to more intense creations, you're having to start thinking about it a little bit more. But at least as far as I got, I wasn't having to do a lot, and that's I guess kind of nice as they ease you in on it. Because I remember watching some of the gameplay and it looked like they built like almost a fortress around this thing when they were fighting it. So very interested in seeing how the game progresses, but it's also cool that obviously they have the ability to do co-op and whatnot in this game. So that does any game that you can add that to, especially when where you're fighting big monsters, that just makes things more fun. It makes it more inviting.
No, yeah.
I have a question for both of you because when you
Yeah,
guys were talking about Wild Hearts, I wanted to bring it up because this is just my thought process in general when it comes to. I hate saying niche titles, but like you said, when it's a game that doesn't have a oversaturation in the market, one of the things I look for is who is this game for, and is it able to be kind of a good entry into this genre? So, Monster Hunter, from my perspective and my viewpoint, for a long time was very, very niche, very popular in Japan, not as much over here. And then Monster Hunter World came out, and it kind of was the breakaway over here. Very popular over here, very successful. Rise continued that success. Do you think this is, with it being a little bit faster, do you think it was catered more towards, you know, hardcore Monster Hunter fans? Or do you think it was kind of their way of trying to make another entry point into the genre?
I feel like it's just
it's
another Monster Hunter, just their version of it. It's not an entry point. It's not for hardcore. It is somebody else's take on Monster Hunter. So,
yep.
uh, I would liken it to you know PUBG BR, and then there was Fortnite BR.
Just in
Their
okay.
their take on it. So that's kind of and I say those two because those two were there before the explosion after Fortnite. So
Hmm.
it was another attempt, and that's exactly what this feels like. I do feel like it might be geared more towards Western audiences. Number one, they're
I
publishing
definitely
with
agree with that.
EA,
Yeah.
particularly EA Originals, but still, it's still EA, and there's a simplicity about it in comparison to Monster Hunter that I think is yes, it could help with other people who may have struggled with the complexity of Monster Hunter, but um, I feel like even though it's Japanese design, it is Koei Tecmo after all, uh, Dynasty Warriors fame. So if you're not familiar,
Hmm.
that is not in this. It feels very Japanese, but it's also not so I don't even know how to explain it. Monster Hunter feels very Japanese. This does not feel as Japanese. That's you'd have to play it, I guess. To
I get what you're saying.
yeah, it's not something I've thought about until you've brought up this question, Noah. So I don't have a better way to explain it. But I believe if you played Wild Hearts and anybody else listening or watching would play it, you would know what
Well,
I mean by that. But yeah, it's there. It's fine. So go ahead,
I
David.
guess I would go with the on the thing of like there's certain things that we as Western gamers expect when we play a game. Like there's certain ways that the UI functions, the way certain things, different things function. A lot of times when you play a Japanese game, we don't always. There's just a flow to it that is a bit foreign to us, and I think that Wild Hearts it definitely embraces more that Western formula that you're talking about, so that it feels more natural to the touch, so to speak. With what Wild Hearts is doing, so I agree. It definitely feels like something I can approach much more easily than Monster Hunter. So I don't know that it was necessarily their intention to be like, hey, let's give Monster Hunter people something easier to play, or hey, let's go after Monster Hunter audience. I think it's just, hey, we have a really cool idea of how we could do this, and you know what? It is a really cool idea. They've done something really fun, and I guess the only thing that I'm surprised by at this point is that it's actually a full priced game as an EA original. That was something I didn't really expect. I figured it may have been a little less pricey, so I worry that, especially when it's in between a couple of really big February releases, it's going to be kind of forgotten about
So that's a
because
Have
release problem. I think the
yeah,
price is justified. It looks like it plays like one too. It plays like a
that's
$60 game. It looks like one.
that's what I was gonna ask, ask because Monster Hunter games are pretty well known for being a pretty good grind and stuff and getting your money's worth. And so I was gonna say, this it looks like it should transfer over pretty
yep.
well. And from your guys' experience, you think
Well, I can definitely look at it and think that it's probably a you're going to get your money's worth out of it. That's for sure.
I think my only concern would be the depth in comparison to Monster Hunter. So, Monster Hunter fans, I don't know how deep the mechanics go yet. So,
Not to
only an
mention, is
hour
the
in.
grind fully there?
I imagine the grind is fully there. I mean, there was a article published. I forget where it was. It's probably published on a few different sites, but even the developers have trouble like beating the game. So their own game they have trouble at, which I mean that could be a sign of something bad. That could be a sign of like, okay, there is a challenge there.
Yeah.
So I think time wise, um, difficulty wise, you'll get your money's worth. In terms of complexity, actually, I hate using the word moment to moment, but it's a familiar phrase. Moment to moment
yeah.
fighting. Is it exciting as Monster Hunter? I don't know yet. Um, because it could be a situation where, yeah, the fights are decently long, and the what gadgets you have to use to build and all that could be interesting, but is the combat um interesting enough for 20 to 40 minutes? Or are you kind of using the same stuff over and over? The monster attacks are similar. Is there a certain repetition to it that makes it boring? Um, don't know. That is my concern. How deep does that stuff go? Because yes, there is a reason why it's an EA original, but uh, based on what I've seen, and not just what I've played, but from what other people I've played, the $60 does look justified. It's just, are you gonna be satisfied? That's just really what that's gonna be.
Yep.
Awesome.
Agreed.
All right. Overwatch has a Valentine's event. Actually, no. Before we get to Overwatch, see, no, you know what? Maybe we should talk about Overwatch, because either way, the next two games are going to be really fascinating. So let's
That's a
let's
that's a word for
Oh
it.
goodness.
let's start with Overwatch, and then we'll end with X Defiance, since all three of us have played that. So
Okay.
Overwatch, Noah and I have played that, the Valentine's event. I also spent time playing Loverwatch, which that was interesting. But Noah, what I'll just prep everybody and say you're not impressed with something. What is that?
So Overwatch as a general is a whole in its state right now, or is Loverwatch specifically? Where do you want me
I
to
don't.
start?
Whatever was on your heart.
Because I I have some notes and stuff that I wanted to talk on, and it's just like this rant, this rant, this rant, and so I'll try and keep it.
Give us the
Um,
rants.
oh, we don't have enough time in the day, brother. Uh, so
I rant.
my
I have to shut myself
my
up. So
my
go.
biggest issue with Overwatch 2 is where is I feel like there is a lot of things that were under delivered that were talked about uh, that I got my hopes up for. I hyped it up to David and to our other friends. I was like, hey, I played the beta. Beta was fantastic. There was counterpicking was the biggest problem in Overwatch 1, where, oh, they got a far, let's go hit scan. You just counter, and it's just counter swapping. You're just swapping heroes to counter. In beta for Overwatch 2, it was less, there was hardly any counterpicking. It was just play your hero better. You don't have to worry about it because the game was so flushed and balanced that you didn't have to worry about, oh, they went Winston, I'm going to go Reaper. You can play any other hero, just play it better. And now they've gone back to where it's especially with the ult regen that you get, they nerfed it to 25% now, but it's still a counter-picking game. And I do not like the way that went. No. I don't want to play a game where if I see that, oh, they picked a Pharah, I can't play a certain character no matter what. I'm stuck into picking a counter to that. And then they're just going to pick a counter to my counter. And it just goes back and forth the whole game. I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah, I do not.
Yeah,
agree with that at all.
Like I said, it's a hot take. It's a hot take. I know, but
it's so much more complex than just, oh, you counter pick. If somebody's playing Pharah, you counter pick. I'm like, okay, then what if they're playing Pharah Mercy? It's not just pick, hit, scan. It is now you got to get your teammates involved. You could pick Pharah. What kind of tank are they running? Does Pharah even fit with the tank flow? Because if you're running a Reinhardt and Pharah's up in the sky, whatever. Forget shooting out Reinhardt's shield. Just look up in the sky. Everybody focus on Pharah, so she's not using the shield, right? So like, I feel like there's so many dynamics that's missing in that analysis.
The main reason being is, like you said, you see a Pharah. What's your first thought? Go to hit scan. Simple, easy.
Well, I play Ana, so whatever. I can shoot Pharah.
You're a support main. Okay, but you got a recent buff recently, so you should be happy. But the game as a whole, and not just like with the Pharah hit scan, but the game as a whole, it felt in the beta very much you could play any hero, and no matter what hero you faced against, as long as you played your hero well, it didn't matter. The meta was so flushed and balanced that you didn't have to worry about that. Now I feel like with their patches, which you can't do one big patch a season, just can't in a live service game. That's another rant. Sure. And which the Roadhog, they let Roadhog one shot for an entire season and go rampant. And then they're like, oh yeah, don't worry, we're going to fix it. We've had to delay the patch for the start of season 3. Rock. Okay, cool. Rework coming in, right? They're like, nope, we're just going to tweak some numbers. And it's like, you couldn't have put that in mid-season. Like that. Like we all thought the rework was coming because they had to delay it. But yeah, I will
say sometimes when they put in certain patches, the size of it doesn't justify I forget. There's something that happens whenever they have to do something. It might actually have to do with more with the consoles than the PC. But every time they do a patch, like it has to go through like certification and like different things. So sometimes it's just not worth justifying putting in this small thing when it has to go through this whole process. Just put it all in at once so that way it can be done. So maybe that's the reason why it was delayed. They just didn't say it, but I could see why that does happen in other games as well as Overwatch. But if that wasn't the case, then yeah, there's no excuse for something like that.
But yeah, going back to the live service, like, is this whole like free to play stuff? Is this Valentine's event going to be like the additional stuff we were told, like the more events? Because it's kind of a letdown to me. Like when I think events, I think I want more stuff like Junkenstein. I thought the most recent Junkenstein event was much better than the previous copy paste. So I'm wondering where that stuff is, because it doesn't feel like it's getting the support that I feel like we were promised.
How long have you been playing Overwatch?
Beta, sir.
Overwatch 2 or Overwatch beta?
Oh, one.
One.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I've been around the block.
Okay. So me and you are on the same page. We've both been around the block. All right.
Yeah.
So you were there when like
We have faced 6
you could have
Winstons.
six Lucios.
Yes.
And doing
I
all that
remember
stuff,
facing
right.
6 Winstons. That was
Oh,
terrifying.
yeah.
Yeah.
When
There's the 6 bastions back when you could snipe with bastion. Yeah,
Mhm.
I've been there since ground zero.
yeah, King's
And so
Row, Ultimate Map, all that stuff. Yeah. All
I've
right.
seen the highs and the lows.
Okay. So to me, what they're doing is right in line with what they've been doing since Overwatch in terms of some events are bigger than others. Junkenstein, Halloween, that's always been a big one. The Lunar New Year event, not really that big. They introduced CTF in that one. Okay. CTF. Didn't play much of that one. That's how the Valentine's event feels to me, which is typically in line with these kind of smaller ones. What was the other decently big one? It was the World Cup, Overwatch World Cup event.
The
That
Lucio
one,
Ball.
yeah, Lucio Ball. Like that one's been incrementally added to over the years. Same with Junkenstein's Revenge. Like every year they add something different. This year's Junkenstein's Revenge with Overwatch 2 was like the penultimate version of it. Like that was, like you said, it was fantastic. That was really good because you got the old stunt Junkenstein's Revenge plus the new version, which I also thought was entertaining. I thought it was a good twist on that.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to events like the Valentine's event or the Lunar New Year event, those are kind of like, we're giving you something to do. I don't ever think that all events were supposed to match Overwatch World Cup or Junkenstein's Revenge. Because the winter one, I didn't mess with that one. Like, because yeah, they added a new mode, but I've just never been into the winter event. The mode's never interested me, and that's fine. Like that's me. But I felt like Loverwatch was it's out of game, but it's something interesting, and I think it is maybe something they are going to add to incrementally year after year because that's typically what they have done. If they're going to add more, they do one thing once a year, and it's like, okay, cool, that was and then the next year it's like, oh, there's more. Oh, okay, this is nice. So it seems consistent, even though I do agree it's a little disappointing.
Well, and like they did the Battle of the Gods, which was a fun event. I want something like that. In the sense of they gave us at least a new mode. Granted, it was to showcase all the skins you could buy. Like it was literally just a showcase for these $20 skins you can buy, but at least there was something. And I don't want them to get complacent with not adding new stuff consistently until Overwatch 2 PvE comes out, which is what I'm worried. And that's kind of why I want to nip this, I want to squash this bug quickly because I don't want both the player base and the developers to get PvE's coming, here's the same stuff, to keep you occupied, which I don't have a reason to play because one, ranked is broken right now. And they've even came out and said it's broken. The matchmaking, I should say, not being able to queue. Because I got queued. I'm a plat player, or high gold, low plat. I'm not good by any means. I was getting placed with masters and a GM, and I'm like, please no, I'm not that good. But again, yeah, like MMR. Ranked, I feel like should be the heart of Overwatch. I know I know commercially it doesn't need to be because that's not the majority of the player base, but I feel like you need to support them more than what they've done. If that makes sense.
No, I completely agree. I always feel like go ahead.
It kind of leads into my MMR rant. So for those of you who don't know, real quick TLDR, in Overwatch 2 competitive, you have your visual rank, which like mine is, high gold, low plat. That is not your actual skill rank. Each player has a hidden MMR, which is your matchmaker rank, that nobody can see but Blizzard. So and it might not be in the same category of what you're visually displayed, but the MMR is what they base your matches off of.
Yeah. So what you're
So
saying is, just for clarification, your visual rank could be high gold, but your MMR would be diamond
mhm,
or lower, bronze, silver, just to put a visual rank on it.
yep,
And so when you queue up for ranked, you're expecting to queue up with people of your same visual rank, but you're actually queuing up with people in your MMR rank.
yep. And we don't know what that number is. Only Blizzard does. Um, and then, on top of that, after each season, they do like a soft decay. So let's say you start off at gold 5 and you work your way up to plat 5. So you go up full rank, cool. You might start the new season back in like gold 5, gold 4, maybe gold 3. And so you have to work your way back up to where you ended the previous season on a visual rank that is not your true rank.
Right? Yes. Yeah.
So my I feel like is a live service, a game you want constant engagement in. If you want people to constantly engage in your ranked mode, let me know where I stand amongst you know the whole community. I don't care if I'm in silver. I just want to know that, and that's my true rank. um, so yeah, I I have such high, I guess it's my own problem. I have such high expectations of Overwatch 2 because I love the game and the world so much. I think it's just my expectations are too high.
No. I completely agree with you. See, I have the opposite problem. I am in silver 4 or 5, but I get matched with people who are in gold or plat, right? On the other team. My
Yeah,
teammates visual rank must match up because they are not. And I'm like, what are y'all doing? I I I've been playing Overwatch for a long time. I've been very close to Diamond. So I know how to play the game. So when Overwatch 2 started and it put me in bronze, as it did everybody, they did a rank boost for everybody. I did not join in on that rank boost at the time. So I missed out on that. So I got stuck at the lowest ranks, but I played much
yep,
higher. And so my MMR is increasing, but my visual rank isn't increasing. So if I lose any match, like I'm just going to be stuck. And there's nothing I could do to change my visual rank unless I like decay my hidden MMR for like a week, come back and play, stomp for a while, and then once I notice, okay, the matches are getting up
yeah.
to my
Leave.
level, then I stop playing for a week again and then go back. So that's my problem. And I'm completely with you on the idea that over and Blizzard Team 4 should focus on ranked type of players because Overwatch is a competitive game. They have the Overwatch League. They do have a ranked mode that a whole lot of people play. To cater to people who don't care about that and are more interested in progressing their visual rank as if it's Call of Duty, that's not the point at
Yeah,
all. The point is
exactly.
to compete and to test your skills and to grow as a player and to win or lose like that. That's the way it goes. Like you take the L, you take the L. You get the dub, you get the dub, and your rank goes up and down accordingly. It is that simple. Why they try to cater to non-competitive people, particularly in ranked, is baffling. From top to bottom, the game should
Mhm.
be balanced based on what works in competitive. And I do get the struggle between balancing at the highest ranks and balancing at the lowest ranks. I do understand that you do want it to feel good for everybody. But at the same time, I do believe that you balance for the higher ranks because they're the ones playing at the most optimal level. If you're not playing at the level, hey, anything you're dealing with, that's a get better situation. But
Yep. Sojourn anybody? like
yeah,
like
so like
they
if you're
like GMs and like you said, top 500, they've been screaming at devs. Sojourn's been a problem since day one.
yes,
And then it took them to season 3 to nerf her.
yeah.
That
Well, they did
can't
nerf her in
fly.
season 2. It just wasn't enough. It was a
Yeah,
strange.
they nerfed her a little bit for the higher skilled players, but they buffed her base fire, so it was almost they made
Yes,
her a little bit less effective at the higher ends, but still like you should not pick her,
right,
But then they in the middle ranks they made her more oppressive because they gave a bigger the skill ceiling or the skill floor was lower, you
right.
know,
Yep, yep.
like so it's just questionable decisions, which I have to give them a little bit of credit because they are slowly bringing it back to what I feel like the beta was, which was perfect with lowering the alt uh, cost with swapping. The Mercy changes I think are actually better. She doesn't.
I agree.
She's still an S pick. I just don't think she's must pick. Um, if they can get it to where I know it's a hero shooter, but I feel like if no matter what heroes, there are obviously going to be heroes that are meta, but I feel like if you have 5-on-5 who are equally matched or in the same ballpark, they should be able to pick 5 heroes, and whoever plays the best with 5 heroes should win, not just because they spent half the time countering and swapping picks to, be more effective. That's just a balance that I prefer.
Yeah, I just feel like the identity of Overwatch has always been the counter pick. Like that is what.
That's what I don't like. But that's just me personally.
But I feel like I've been at the lowest rank. Well, I've never been in bronze in Overwatch or silver. Well, I started in a little bit in silver, but I spent 90% of my time in gold, and then peaked at very high platinum. Um, And so in this, I don't know where I'm at MMR because I can't see it, but I feel like I'm
Yep.
playing at a high gold level, at least maybe platinum. But I have played against and with people where people have tried to counterpick and it still didn't work. People have counterpicked and it worked. Like I've seen it go both ways. And a lot of it is based on team composition and who is playing those characters. So, somebody who's playing Winston, yes, your natural counter pick is going to be a Reaper, but the way the team plays around the Winston, for example, let's just take an easy one. They see the Reaper come, and then it's like, oh, there goes the Reaper. Save Winston. And everybody just dumps on Reaper for a moment. Either Reaper's got to get out of there and he doesn't get the chance to do enough damage to Winston, which lets the supports heal up Winston even more. And then Reaper might try again, or he might try to come from a flank, like the counter pick can work. It's more optimal, but it may not, depending on who you're playing, which I guess is a little bit of what you're talking about with, hey, we picked our composition. This is working. But I do feel like it is kind of I feel like it is best if Overwatch allows counter picks because sometimes it's best to choose Winston so you can dump on Anna, who's back there just wrecking your team.
And I guess my thought process is just from playing so much competitive and watching so much Overwatch League, I much prefer like in Overwatch League. A lot of people hate it, but the mirror comps where it's like, hey, these are the 5 meta heroes. We're gonna see who's the best with this.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to worry about swapping.
Yeah, that was fun.
And I think I I like games where, like I said, I need to, if I'm playing, we'll just throw out Reinhardt.
Yeah.
I just don't want a game to be kind of like, I felt like it was in Overwatch where, like you said, if there's an Ana that's kind of hard carrying, I don't want to feel needed to swap to Winston to counter the Ana. I feel like I want a game where I should play Ryan better to
Do
counter the
you
Ana.
main anybody?
I play everything.
Okay.
So
Okay. Now I understand where you're coming from. I
yeah,
main characters, whether I play tank,
okay.
DPS, or support. So as soon as you started saying that, I was like, he must not main anybody, because
No.
that's exactly the take somebody who doesn't. I don't want to feel forced like I have to switch. I want to play who I want. That's fine. That's a fine feeling. But as somebody who does main characters, I feel like, oh man, like, okay, this is what they're doing. This isn't working anymore. I could just switch real quick to a different one that I know, and boom, okay, problem solved. So um,
Yeah, and I know I'm in
two
the
different
minority
perspectives.
on that take. I know I'm in the minority. But
You
because
might not be. I don't know.
my mindset is, if I'm a player and I'm playing J Queen, for instance, and like, I think there comes a point when you're like, hey, I've tried everything. I need to swap. I think there is a point where you just need to swap to try something else. But my first thought is, and what I want the core of the gameplay to be around is like, hey, if I'm playing J Queen and they're playing Orisa, generally Orissa's going to win that matchup because she can outdistance, that whole thing.
Yeah.
My thought shouldn't be, I need to swap to Orisa to counter or to a more ranged hero. My first thought is I should play J Queen better and adjust my gameplay to be advantageous against the Orisa.
Or
That's
maybe
just
your
my
team needs
thought
to play
process.
better.
Bro, it's Overwatch. We know they're not. Like,
I know. You
I queued
can't
up,
rely
dude.
on your
I
teammates.
queued up for 6 games of comp at the start of season 3 for the row queue. My first 4 games, my team
Dude, it is
left,
abysmal.
then their team left, then my team left, then their team left, and then I had 2 pretty close games, and that's when I was like, something doesn't feel right. Um, and I went to Twitter to check out and see what other people were feeling and like forums and stuff, and then I saw that their matchmaker was broken. And people were like, I'm in gold, and why am I playing against grandmasters? And then
Oh my goodness.
uh Aaron came out and was like, hey, it's broken, we're implementing fixes. And I was like, it's a great start to season 3.
Yeah. Yeah. Nope. Same reason I've stayed away from ranked, because I've definitely played some matches and I'm like, wow, I gotta play really hard right now. Oh my gosh. Like, I
which
gotta hit all my sleeps. Get the right
which is
news. Guys,
a
what are you
side
doing?
a side note, do you remember in Overwatch 2 beta when it was the casual playlist, but they had the comp uh, game format where you attacked and played defense
I
in the
forget
Overwatch
what
2
it was
beta?
called. Yeah.
It was just like the regular quick play, but it was quick play,
Oh yeah.
but you
I'm sorry. I
played
was thinking of the
offense and
Overwatch 2 beta.
defense.
The Overwatch. Yes. I
No, it
remember
was
that.
in the Overwatch 2 beta too. Like it was quick play, but you played with the ranked format. And I'm like,
Yes.
why is that not in the party mode or whatever it's called? Like, there's a lot of things I want, but it's because I want the game to be the best that it is, and I'm tired of waiting for the PVE. I think that's the biggest problem. Like, it's coming. I'm waiting.
Yeah,
So,
well, we're gonna keep waiting.
yeah.
But yeah, I think they'll get it there. But yes, the Valentine's event, it's okay. It's fun for a few matches, and then I go back to playing some other modes. So it's a nice difference for a little bit. But Loverwatch is silly. Did you play it yet? Because it's is goofy.
I I saw the like the little like lover or the like matchmaker thing like outside the game. I saw people doing that, and I'm like, uh, I want to know what it would have taken to put that in the game. I think that would have been a lot better in the game. Um,
I don't know.
it feels kind of like Destiny 2 lore. Like I like the fact that they're putting it in the game now instead of putting it on little lore cards. You have to go to a
I
website
got
to
you.
do.
Yeah.
I feel like it would have been a lot more popular or more engaging if it was in the game. But I know that technically, it's probably impossible. But still would have liked it. Still would have liked it.
Maybe. The only thing I would say about that is I wish the voice acting was in it because it's I want to say text based, but
It's like a visual novel, right?
yeah, it's a visual novel.
Yeah.
So there's no voice acting, but I kind of wish there was because I really want to hear what Hanzo sounds like as Cupid saying the weird stuff he does in Loverwatch. So
It's because they're all working on voice lines for Overwatch 2.
no, I know.
I should say.
Choo choo is my arrow.
Yeah, no.
You will fall in love.
Yeah.
That's my entire contribution to this entire Overwatch 2 discussion.
No, David's just sitting here thinking.
Your,
Overwatch 2
your
should have
boy
been a
does not
battle
have
royale.
any time outside of COD for live service.
Yeah, right.
Like I said, you're just sitting here saying, this whole time we're discussing and conversing, having a good back and forth. David's just like, Overwatch 2 should have been a battle royale. It would have been so much better. I should run Blizzard. Just let me run Blizzard. I can make it run so much better.
I do have one question though. Since I did, first of all, I didn't even know you were this much of an Overwatch person. So now I'm intrigued.
Oh,
So
I am
He's the reason I got into Overwatch 1 the way I did when it first came out.
and the reason he got out of it.
So number one, we need to play together, okay? Because I pretty much play every night to do my dailies at least. So anyway, number two, have you been having trouble with frame rate issues? Have you been having frame rate issues at all? Because I feel like ever since Overwatch 2 actually launched, which the beta, Overwatch 2 beta, was super clean.
Mhm.
The actual game, I started having frame rate issues all the time. I'm rubber banding all the time, and I feel like the two are connected. Are you having the same issue?
Are you on PC?
I am.
I see. I'm a console boy, so mine has been pretty stable. I would say my frame rate issues, if that includes me losing my team because they quit, then I would I would say I'm in the same boat.
Sure.
But performance wise, for me, it's been pretty good. I have definitely no issues on that. I'm sure that's probably I hate to say it's a PC problem, but I can definitely see it. Being more common on the PC side of things.
Sure.
Yeah, me personally, I haven't had too many issues.
Okay. Well, either way, we should play sometime, like
Dude,
soon,
like
maybe tonight.
Dude, I'm telling you, dude, just be ready. I'm a shark. Like, I hear somebody, and I make a beeline. I get the blood in the eyes. Just.
It's been
Somehow
working when he's been playing
Golden Plat. So
it's been working when he's been playing COD multiplayer with us, though.
yeah, there you go. All right, well, that's Overwatch and a little bit of talk about the Valentine's event. All right, well, there leaves only one game, XD. So Noah, what do you played it?
Oh, sorry. I just got through my third game of Defiant. Sorry. Had to wake up. I really hope that X Defiant is a free to play game. With it being Ubisoft, I don't know. It does not feel like somebody needs to pay $60 for it.
Okay.
It feels and plays like a free to play. I kind of would compare it. For those who don't know, it's a first person shooter from Ubisoft. This isn't like a dog or a nag at them, but you know how you have those games that come out that, like for Super Smash Brothers, it's like, oh, we're going to do our version of Smash Bros, but we're going to use our licensed characters.
Yeah.
It feels like this is Ubisoft's like, hey, we're doing a first person shooter with our licensed characters.
With Call of Duty speed and Overwatch modes.
Yes.
Well, it's actually COD modes.
Well, payload pushing is not COD.
Well, maybe not that, but maybe not that one. But
the way they are designed feels very much like
Hardpoint
Overwatch.
Dom and Hardpoint Dom and the other one are.
Yeah, but they're stylized in the way Overwatch does it.
Yeah,
and it's you've got your different factions. The gameplay, I'm trying to look at who is this game for, and I feel like it's for people who want a first person shooter and want to hopefully be a free to play shooter and not dish out $70 for a COD. It I'm just in there playing. I'm like, COD feels so much better than this. Like
By the
gameplay,
way, by the way, it is going to be free to play.
called it. Yes. Sorry.
Just
I
figured
was
I'd
just in
go
there
ahead
playing.
and just knock
I'm
that
like,
out for you real quick.
Yeah.
thank you. That's it. Confirms my suspicions. It like you have your, and I put down the bullet point. It literally has like every Call of Duty gun, which they're not Call of Duty guns. It's like M4, M16, like the generic
It's
first person
expected,
shooter.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
of every.
going to be in there.
Yeah, I think now with shooters, it's such a flooded market. You either have to do one of two things. It has to either be incredibly great to play with movement, shooting, feel, or it has to be do something like special, something different, something unique. And it doesn't do either of those for me. So it's kind of hard to, which it is pre-alpha. It was an insider session. They did the whole thing of like, hey, you can talk about it or write about it, just no video recording, any of that stuff. I'm hoping they add more content. The maps they felt like chunks from the Division 2. If you played that game, it looked like they just took a chunk of an area from the Division 2.
Yeah.
And made a little
I actually
square.
liked some of the maps, to be honest with you.
I did too, actually. Yeah.
But they feel like Division 2 though, like when you were playing, because it felt that way to me.
Yeah.
I was like, I feel like I ran through this, crashed
Subway.
airplane. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I
swear I saved the president already.
I feel like I ran through this in the Division 2. But yeah, it just doesn't do anything special enough as a first person shooter in this market to warrant me putting time into it. You do have some hero shooter elements, if you want to call them that, where you have a passive ability, you have like a main ability, and then like an ultimate. So, and I played with quite a few of them. None of them felt different or nothing that I haven't seen before in a different shooter. So, yeah, it's just, I'm hoping, when the game eventually launches, I'm curious to see how much content, how much varying weapons and modes there are, because that'll have to carry the game, I feel.
Yeah. Some of it is a smaller team that's on this game.
It definitely...
Go ahead.
It looks good. It looks good.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong. Like, the game looks and shoots really well. Just it's not
I
as
think
good as
it exists in that platform. It's above an indie, but it's not Call of Duty, if that makes sense. Like, it's not Call of Duty, it's not Rainbow Six Siege, which Siege has its own problems. Yeah, well, I don't know that it's necessarily Forspoken, but
I would put it on the
it's a
same
game that looks like that could be mistaken for a AAA game.
Well, did you guys play Rogue Company at all?
I did not.
I did a little bit with you.
It feels about that same level of quality as Rogue Company, which Rogue Company was a third person, like hero style, free to play.
The audience that you're going to catch this with is the light competitive Call of Duty, competitive Siege, kind of, well, more competitive COD than Siege, but it's going to be the competitive kind of COD community is who will play this. I'm not going to say they'll play it all the time. Those are the people they're going after. I know that because one of the devs on it is a former Call of Duty pro. So he's working on this. He's given them his expertise as to playing the game for a long time. It definitely feels like it's Siege if you sped it up is really the way I've felt playing when I've played it. And I know personally I've enjoyed what I've played. I thought the second session I got to do was better than the first. Some of it I think may have just been me adjusting to it. And I think that's really the big, as per usual, COD itself probably would not play it nearly as much if I didn't play it with friends. If I found some friends to play X Defiant with, I might actually stick with it for a little while. it's one of those that maybe it might be a good break game, is the way I look at it more though, than necessarily like, oh, I've been max on my on the stuff I can do in COD for some time, so I'm just gonna jump into X Defiant to break it up over a weekend or something. But it being free to play, that does help, because you reach more people. People take a chance on something they don't have to pay for. That's just how it works. That's why free to play works, because you can entice people with microtransactions
Yeah.
and battle passes and all that fun stuff.
I do think it will get its own like dedicated following, much like Rogue Company did. There is
Yeah.
a hardcore dedicated group of Rogue Company player base out there. Um, I think it has the basis to do fine as a uh, shooter in this market. I just don't see it getting above that.
No.
I think it's below fine. It mechanically it feels fine. It has no soul of its own. It is clearly ripping off so many different games and trying to make something interesting. And if you play Overwatch, why would you play X Defiant? If you play Call of Duty, why would you play X Defiant? That's what it feels like. It's just, what
Yep.
about what is X Defiant bringing that you can't get anywhere else except you combine Call of Duty and Overwatch? And that is going to be such a small audience. It's not worth going after them.
Here is their big selling point. There's no SBMM.
That's stupid.
That's literally the selling point.
There's no skill-based matchmaking?
Nope.
What?
That's
It just gets worse.
which is was it crossplay when you guys first played, when you did
No.
your sessions?
No,
don't
we
think
played
so.
on PC.
Yeah.
This was a crossplay.
But you know what? I think
Uh,
our second session, I think when they started reopening it, I think it was crossplay.
I didn't think it was, but maybe.
Oh no, no, no,
maybe
no, no, no! It wasn't. I'm sorry, no, because it was only open to PC players. Yeah, so
Okay.
My
Yeah,
mistake.
this was crossplay, and I can, now that you said that, I can definitely vouch there was no SBMM at all, or is just such a small player
No,
base,
it's
because
not.
there were some cracked people playing that game.
that's
Um,
because the people who are promoting this game right now are former CDL pros that the former CDL pro invited
They
and
yeah,
gave codes to.
yeah, which Ubisoft rant, fix your connect. Let me change
Yes.
my email without having access to my old email.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
David got a good rant out of me from that one. Yeah, it's like you said, just, and it doesn't help that I've been playing a lot of Call of Duty with David. It's like, why would I play X Defiant when I can just go play Call of Duty?
Especially when there's a new season.
Well,
And a
yeah, and
good
this
season,
being a
too.
live service, I mean, they're gonna have to make some serious changes to this. We've already been seeing live service drop. I mean, this game, I don't even think would have 2 years in it as it is right now. So it's, it just does not have its own identity. It is not something people would stick with because it's Call of Duty and Overwatch combined. Why would you spend time not playing Overwatch or Call of Duty? Just play those games. You're going to be satisfied. So if
Mhm.
I can't solve their problem, like this is, I feel like the entire game has to, maybe not the idea of it, taking Tom Clancy franchises and using them, but this ain't it. This is not going to. This,
You
it's
you
not
need to
going to.
do more
Shop's
than
not going to stay
have.
open.
Yeah, you need to do more than have your operators or like your factions that you can pick different be based off of previous entries in, or not previous entry, but like other franchises that you own. Like just because one of the factions is, Splinter Cell themed, it's not going to make me keep playing your game.
Right. Yeah.
Like, so
Oh, it
Or just
absolutely
do
got me.
something.
David just leaves. Like, wait, what? So
Or just do something more interesting than create this hero shooter. I just feel like this should be an entirely different game because it's not It's not going to capture
I
any audience.
I would have actually preferred them do kind of like what David mentioned, a more siege style, because we haven't. I feel like that's less of a saturated market than the first person like hero shooter.
They have Siege, so they don't want to create another version of it.
But just something, like you said, something different. Like I don't know what the answer is, like you said. Just something not this.
Yeah, because I play it, I'm like, it
Boring.
doesn't feel
I hate
so.
saying that word.
That's the thing. Like, I enjoyed playing it, but that's because mechanically, it's very much like Call of Duty, which is fun to play. But I can get that in Call of Duty. So, like, the feeling of it is no different than what I would get from another game.
It feels good. It just, who is this for?
Yeah. So
why did we need this?
The people who don't want to pay $70 for COD. I think that's the only market you can go with. Like,
in all fairness, you're not wrong. There's not a ridiculous market on free to play 6v6 shooters. So I'm not saying that, like, it's going to blow up, but it does have a market that isn't necessarily there, especially on console. Beyond, Halo, but Halo's a completely different feel.
Like I said, I think it will be the same level of success as Rogue Company. Niche, but a dedicated following.
And if it's a small dev team,
Studio,
then it may not have as big of a budget too. So
that's fine. Do something else with it if your budget isn't that big.
I hear you, and I understand what you're saying. Just do something.
I'm not trying to dog them. Like, I know they're trying.
You are heard. Just don't do this.
We're listening. Just stop.
Do you see the words that are coming out of my mouth? I commend them for trying this. This isn't it. Like, you got to know when to pivot off of something, and Ubisoft just needs to pivot off of this and either have San Francisco do something else or turn this into something else and just kind of bite the bullet and eat the money that way. But they are. I remember when they first started it out, they're like, "We are so dedicated," and I'm not even sure this game is going to launch. So, like, that. I am the most pessimistic here, I think, about this game, but
I'm definitely the most optimistic.
And I'm right in the middle.
Yeah.
I get it because I'm in the middle of the screen. I don't know if they can tell, but I'm in the middle of them too. So
yeah, we're saying that. I'm saying this right here. Okay, you could go back to the February 16th episode. I'm calling it. This is not even going to launch.
I think it launches. But that's just me.
I think it'll launch with problems. In the middle.
I think we can guarantee that.
An online game launching with problems is so rare nowadays.
The biggest question for me is how long will it stay up? We've just watched so many other games like Rumbleverse and all these others.
Rumbleverse didn't even last a year.
Yep. So that's
the only reason
question.
why this would last longer than a year is because it's Ubisoft. Like, Ubisoft just carries a name. So, but if it did launch, which I don't think it will, it's not going to last a year and a half, or it will last no more than a year and a half. That's the way I want to say it.
Just have to wait and somebody timestamp this, please, and we'll come back. We'll come back to
clip it.
Yeah, clip it, chat.
All right, we got news.
Yes.
So, Microsoft admits Game Pass cannibalizes sales is the headline that I saw. In a 277-page internal analysis Microsoft sent to the CMA, which is a governing body in the UK that handles acquisitions and all that stuff, So yes, this is dealing with the acquisition of Activision. Microsoft showed a percentage decline in base game sales 12 months following their addition on Game Pass. So people have brought up that Phil Spencer said in the past that Game Pass increases sales when on Game Pass. Gentlemen, well, David, I was looking at my stuff, didn't realize Noah left. Is Phil Spencer lying?
I mean, yeah, this is to court. You're either lying in person or you're lying to the court, and you get yourself in serious trouble lying to the court. Here's the thing: I don't think anybody's surprised that if you, it's the old adage of why buy the cow if you can get the milk for free. I know it's not necessarily an adage. It's a dealing with this subject, but why would I buy a, and this is the masses. Everybody, like, this is like when you go to Twitter and you think that what's said in this little vacuum is the opinion of everybody. It's the same idea with this. Like, yes, there are probably plenty of people who go and buy a game off of Game Pass because they like it so much. But there are double, triple, who knows how many that play the game on Game Pass like, sweet, I wasn't going to pay for that anyway. And then just move on. That's, nobody's surprised. I've I was working at GameStop before I started doing reviews for games and getting game code from people. And guess what? When I had Game Pass, I didn't buy any of Microsoft's first party games. And I'm a humongous Gears of War fan. I bought the Xbox, but I wasn't about to buy a copy of the Ultimate Edition or something like that. 'Cause why? Because what was the point of me shelling out $60 when I was paying for something that gave me all of those games? It Is it going to assist some games in being better with sales? Possibly. But I would assume the majority are just not going to do as well because, again, if I get it through a service, I'm most people do not sit there unless a game offers insane replay value. You ain't just sitting there like, oh man, I just beat Guardians of the Galaxy on Game Pass. I'm gonna go buy it. No, it's gonna go off of the service. You're like, oh, that sucks. At least I beat it. Like people don't replay games nearly as much as people think they do. And the problem is when you have, the problem is when you have Game Pass, I finished it. Okay, on to the next one. We've created this on to the next one mentality with Game Pass. So there's no reason to stick with a certain game. So of course, game sales aren't going to be there because they're moving on to the next game. It's just that way that everything's moving. So I'm not surprised that Game Pass cannibalizes game sales because I think all of that evidence has been in front of us for a long time, just in the way human nature works.
Yep. I agree. Yep, that's you pretty much said everything I would,
I was hoping
like
you
said,
just said yeah.
just completely like dog on David, like, you don't, no, the amount of times, like, we both previously worked at GameStop, and the amount of people that, oh, can I purchase, Forza Horizon whatever number? I'm like, oh, do you got Game Pass, by the way? Just throwing up. Yeah, I was like, okay, well, we're gonna go put this back, and you're gonna go and just click that little download button. I'm gonna save you, $40.
Great GameStop salesperson, right there.
Oh, that's yeah.
We were honest.
Yeah, dude. The amount of people that are like, "Hey, is MLB the Show like up for pre-order?" And we're like, "Hey, you got Game Pass? Yeah, okay, bye. Just go pre-order there. Like, it'll just download there." And they're like, "Oh, really? Yeah." So, I mean, I think, it's going to, like David said, because replay value is not nearly as much. And I would say when you only advertise Game Pass, like when that's the number one thing you advertise, that's that's what people are going to go to. And that's where they're going to get
Oh,
our
yeah.
games.
Well, that's
And
what they want.
Sony, what do? They advertise their games. They have a service, but they advertise their games and they don't put them on there day one. So I was not. I was like, oh look, the grass is green. Like it's such an obvious statement. I don't know why it was such a shocking but
Well, it's really shocking because Spencer claimed that it increased sales. Like I said, some games maybe, but I feel like Phil was cherry picking some specific instances.
Or he was drunk. One of the two. Like I don't know. Like Phil, give us Twitter. Like stop it. Like so.
I feel like he was cherry picking. So in a sense, I think both can be true. I guess depending on how you look at it and who you're talking to, which
Perspective,
I guess,
yeah.
Because a game that's maxed out their, I'll just call them box purchases. I'll include digital purchases in that as well. We're looking at our $20, $40, $60 kind of thing. You put them on Game Pass, and the amount of people who were going to just straight up buy the game probably maxed that out already. So they get on Game Pass, and not much happens in terms of more box sales. They just get more players playing through Game Pass. And then you got the games that never had great box purchases, and then you put it on Game Pass and maybe more Game Pass. So now Phil can say, yes, see, people do buy games on when they use Game Pass.
Look at what we've done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, 0.01% is an increase.
I mean, so to be fair too, other developers have said our sales from again, I'm just calling them box purchases, increased after we put it on Game Pass. I don't know if those are games that were on there for a limited time or games that are still on there. But that does mean something. But I do feel like Phil is cherry picking here. I do wonder though, because he's talking to the CMA. And I don't know what they're worried about with this acquisition. I'm so confused by if the CMA even understands what the heck is going on. But I wonder if it's possible that Microsoft is saying, yeah, this isn't happening because they're trying to downplay something else like cloud or, something to make it seem like, yeah, see, like putting stuff on Game Pass, like it doesn't just destroy the market. People still buy, or don't, or whatever the case. Like, I don't know what they're trying to downplay. I'm just throwing something out there, spitballing off the top of my head. Because I know that's been a strategy both Sony and Microsoft have used in different ways in this whole acquisition stuff.
Does it feel like the strongest arguments that either company has at this point, that they're just ignoring those and just going for like the most, it feels like out of left field arguments? Like that's what it really feels like. Microsoft, we want Sony's performance reviews. Like, why?
Like, huh?
Yeah.
Wait.
What do you have to gain?
Yeah.
Like it's just the most random arguments. Like,
and Microsoft is just sitting there like, watch this, we're gonna get them, and then throws that out of left field over there. Everybody's like,
it's just a lawyer like
siding with PlayStation, talking about exclusives.
Oh yeah. I didn't say that it wasn't both. It was definitely both. Yeah.
No, I know you weren't saying that. I'm just bringing up the point. I'm like, wait, what? They are like not putting Final Fantasy VII Remake on Xbox because of this whole acquisition talk stuff. Like, what are we talking about?
It feels like this lawyer is like holding up two briefcases. Like, okay, in this briefcase, I've got this argument, but in here is a mystery box.
Yeah.
Which one do you want? Mystery box. Mystery box.
Let's make a deal. That's what it feels like.
Yeah. It's a deal or no deal, or sitting there like seeing if what argument do I have in my case? Oh, exclusives are bad for the market. Yeah. I'm keeping this case.
Okay. Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
All
Oh,
of
it's
this.
it's the we've proceeded into the most weird, dumb timeline possible.
This is why high level business is stupid at times because
Well, the
this
problem
is the
is
kind of
when it
stuff you have to
works, you
do.
just keep going with stupid stuff. Like
I know.
so I
And
can't really blame a company for. I mean, if your strategy's working, why would you stop?
yeah, let's convince the CMA that exclusives are bad and
Yep.
keep doing exclusives. Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
If it works.
Uh, right? Apex Legends developers want Apex Legends to last 20 years like Counter-Strike. So, that's pretty much the details behind it. Respawn, they literally want that game to last a very long time, like Counter-Strike. So, what are the chances Apex Legends can last that long?
I'll start. I would like to go back in time, if I may, to September 22nd, 2021. I had to research this. On September 22nd, 2021, Respawn tweeted, contrary to what some folks are reporting, Titanfall, in bold caps, mind you, is the very core of our in bold DNA. Who knows what the future holds?
Well,
So you expect
hold on. Apex Legends
Let me
is
cook.
Titanfall.
Let me cook. Let me land. Let me cook. So you expect me that you want to put long-term future plans into a franchise after you killed my baby, my favorite first-person shooter ever,
With you.
ever. You want me to have faith in you? No. I David knows this. I quit Apex and I refused to go back because that killed Titanfall. And I will be pity and petty till the day I die. I am so salty about that.
It's killed
Yeah,
it twice, by the way, just to put it in context. They were
Yeah.
working on a Titanfall solo player game and then or single
Yep.
player, and that got canceled.
In
It's
bold caps, DNA, mind you.
Yeah.
So mad.
I'll just put it that Halo Infinite also had a 10-year plan, and we see how that's going. I mean, it's just the market is you're so tied to what your market is. It Apex is doing well, if I'm not mistaken. They actually beat their highest player count recently on Steam. So the game is still working well. It's still is people are still interested in it. Apex is clearly one of the top three when it comes to battle royale. You've got Warzone, you've got Fortnite, you've got Apex. The biggest thing for them is they've just got to keep figuring out ways to be inventive, and that we all know that, like with Overwatch, that's more than just here's a new hero, here's a new legend, which I think they understand, considering the most recent season isn't a legend and rather is them working through some things. So, but it really does. 20 years, bro. You got to see if in the next two you can come up with enough to keep things going, because it can go, but not everything is Counter Strike. Like the Counter Strike is very much a unicorn. It feels like in this market, because some things just that do they really do a lot of content updates at this point to Counter Strike? Like I don't. There's not like new maps and stuff or whatnot, is there? It's just popular. That's the
Yeah.
biggest thing, and I don't know that I know Counter Strike. Some of it's because it's so popular over in Asia, correct? Is part of why it's so big. I
don't
thought
think
it was
Counter-Strike is
popular.
that
I thought it was
popular in
popular
Asia.
overseas.
Not
but,
not anymore because
But-
Like
Valorant.
UK.
yeah. But in any case, like not everything can be I've watched some Counter Strike. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so
Okay.
old. Like
Also
I'm
something
sure
to
it's
watch.
good, but it's just so old
It is.
looking. It looks like a game that came out like 20 years ago, and you're telling me Apex wants to stay around for 20 years? Like you gonna have to have some massive staying power. But this is the biggest problem they have is the environment and expectations for those
Yeah.
kind of games. Counter Strike it supersedes those expectations. People know what to expect out of that game. With Apex, you're gonna have to keep grinding it out and putting out content for those 20 years. You can't just be like Counter Strike and we're just kind of we're done making content in 10 years and it's still around 10 years later. That's you got to keep up, and that's probably the biggest problem is you are in the big 3, but you also got to keep up with the big 3.
You have to keep up, and you have to also compete. Because what happens when you're at the top? There are going to be people nipping at your heels
Yeah.
that will do whatever you're doing, but better or reinvented. Look at, I'm not saying that it killed, right? But look at what Valorant has done. Like they just took a lot of the CS:GO gameplay and expanded upon it and reinvented it, and it's doing phenomenal. So that's the kind of stuff they have to fight with, and
Yep.
doing that for 20 years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, heck, I mean the redeploy balloons in Call of Duty straight up ripped from Apex. The ping system ripped from Apex. Like there's so many good ideas. You're going to have them stolen from you whether you like it or not. You've got to keep figuring out how to be the innovator of the idea to get people there. You can't have that's the biggest problem for 20 years. You cannot stop for the next 20-year run.
I disagree with that entirely because Counter-Strike hasn't reinvented itself in God knows how long.
It's like the only game that's managed to do that though.
But no other game has actually tried to do that because they all try to reinvent themselves all the time. Look at Halo.
Yeah,
keeps
but
trying
that's
to
the
reinvent
that's the
itself.
expectation for it. Apex, that expectation's there. So for Apex, it's going to be really tough for them to just all of a sudden one day say, "Sorry, no more content. You're going to have to play this," and then still expect it 10 years from now to be there.
That's a fair argument.
And that's just more that side of it.
Yeah, I just feel like. Well, let me read you guys this quote, and this is from the developer, and see if your thoughts change. But don't remember who said this, but where we want to get to is that Apex is going to last for 20 years, like Counter Strike. It has to be self-sufficient. That's a weird. Is that what they said? Oh, no, I typed it wrong. It has to be able to be self-sufficient and stand on its own. The systems have to be strong and interesting and good for players to play season over season, even if we're not adding new bespoke content. But there will always be attending there in terms of creating choice, creating interesting challenge, and shifting the rule set that builds the healthiest game. To me, that sounds like everything I would want to hear from somebody who wants to make a game last for 20 years, because it's not going to be trends change. You're not going to be able to keep up with that. So can you create something that can stand the test of time mechanically? In their case, character wise and all that. Can you make that? I think that is possible. The interesting thing about Counter-Strike, that game does not change at all, ever.
Yep.
And people are still playing it, even though it has never changed. No new content, same gameplay, same map. All the characters are the same. Everybody acts the same. The only difference is who's playing those characters, what you're buying, what strategies you're using. Apex has enough of that already in terms of strategy, complexity, all that it can stand as is. I think what David talks about with the content dropping off eventually at some point, they're like, at some point, this is going to drop off. Can we make this last after that happens? After EA is like, all right, we're done. Because that was my biggest thing. I'm like, at this point right now, Apex is a money maker for EA. If you talk about you want this thing to last for 20 years, it has to make money for 20 years. But they're thinking, well, who says we're even going to be in charge of it in 20 years? So thinking that far ahead, to me, they are putting in place the bones to make this game last by actually understanding what is to be expected in 20 years, which is what you're seeing right now is not what this is going to be in 20 years because the market's going to change. What you're interested in might change, but like Counter-Strike, there is still an audience for it. It's not going to be a Fortnite audience. It's not even Valorant's audience, but it's the audience we want to keep. I think that's a fair point to make. It's not, I don't think they're trying to say it's going to be the biggest thing ever in 20 years, but are people still going to be playing it by 20 years? That's what we're looking towards. I think it's fair.
I think when they stop putting content, I think they will definitely have to. All of these like limited time modes that they, doing for events and stuff, they'll just have to open the gates and let those be available all the time. Because like you said, Counter-Strike, that game mode, that is I ain't calling it a game mode, but it's a multiplayer that you can play over and over, and it'll send. I don't see it. If they just stick with the BR, I don't see a BR lasting 20 years. Just the BR. I think if they put in like their team deathmatch, they had like a domination style game mode at one point. I think if they put in those elements, it could last 20 years, even if they stop the content, because those game modes can be replayed a lot more, in my opinion, than just a BR by itself. They're not getting any help from me, but they. Yeah, I think if they can, like you said, put the foundation in place with different game modes and longevity in mind, they could do it. I like the mindset. That's great that you want to have what you've built to last that long, but just have to wait and see.
Deck is stacked.
Do what?
Sorry, the deck is stacked against you.
Yeah, it really is.
That's the biggest thing. In the current market and with the expectations of that market, it's tough. I mean, live service is really tough at this point.
Yeah,
unless you were Counter-Strike, where you're like, here, this is what this is. Here's what you're getting. That's it. And players are like, oh, okay.
Well, yeah, I think it definitely sounds like it's not going to be a live service forever.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. I didn't specify that specifically, but yeah.
Yeah.
Guess we'll see.
If they're trying to, I mean, hey, I guess if you're treating it like a brick and mortar
20 years later, clip this.
I mean, you also have to think, like, they could technically, like, even if, like you said, they move on, they stop supporting it, they just leave it open. I mean, it could last for 20 years. Their player count just might be like 12 people.
It's Babylon's Fall. It has that one dedicated person.
Yeah, like it's still
who keeps winning every battle royale. He's like, yay, because I'm the only player, so I automatically win every BR.
Yeah.
All right. God of War Ragnarok developers didn't realize that allies spoiling puzzles would annoy players. Huh. So, they didn't think that adding the in-game hints would be annoying. It wasn't until after release that they realized the frequency was too much. They considered it an oversight. Why do you think they missed this?
Because boys were rushing to hit November. That's why.
Yeah.
You think this kid talks too much? I don't care. Go gold.
That sounds like a you problem. Move along. Like,
we'll fix it in post. We can do that in editing.
Yeah. The only explanation I could have for something like that is that they were to me, honestly, these kind of games where they have all this incessant chatter that's supposed to give you hints. These are developers who have a design that is not meant to trust the player, and they get tunnel visioned on that design and don't realize little things like, yo, he's talking a little bit too much. It's not even really giving him a chance to figure things out on their own. It's like, you guys play video games, you guys make video games, you guys grew up playing video games. I am a little surprised you guys couldn't figure out the idea that, some people actually do like figuring stuff out on their own. That's kind of all we did in video games for a very long time.
I think
So
some
what
of
happened?
what you said, specifically the tunnel vision, I think that's part of that was on the developers' part too. They got tunnel vision on what they were working on because one of the first things that's brought up in the on the article is that Sophos, the narrative director, said that it didn't get exposed to them until after the game came out because their play tests they did not get feedback about the characters too much. So the way I look at that is you've got probably two different camps here. You've either got people who were just figuring out the puzzles very quickly, so they just didn't notice it, or you've got one of the things that God of War does really super well is accessibility. And you had people who had accessibility issues, and having these kind of hints was very useful because I'm sure they probably had plenty of playtesting with that audience. So between those two audiences, you're not going to get that kind of feedback. I'm just assuming they probably didn't have, as silly as it's going to sound, they didn't have the control.
Yeah.
They didn't have the control person. And
I'm not sure what accessibility thing would necessitate more talking.
Which, I mean, even in my playthrough, like, there were a couple times where I was just like, ma'am, let me cook. I've sat here for 2 seconds. Like, but it wasn't like, I guess, overly talking. Like, there wasn't so much that it bothered me in my playthrough, but I honestly ignore a lot of that. Like, when they're like mumbling off to the side, I usually just ignore it because I'm focused on the puzzle. But that was just my experience.
And that could have been
like
some of the playtesters too.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe that was more.
Well, and it's one of those. I think looking back, they would have. There's so many ongoing things when developing a game. I feel like it probably just got slipped through the cracks, or they just didn't think about it.
Or maybe somebody brought it up. It was like, no, go gold.
Like it just like pushed him out the door.
Well, it brings me back to thinking about how Alien Colonial Marines, I think it was awful, and one line of code is the reason it's awful, because the alien responded differently because of said code. You change that code, the game gets infinitely better. Sometimes it's just a line of code that
or they sent it
didn't get messed with.
They sent it to the the QA testers, and they're like, "Hey, I thought it was fine," or it was, and they're like, "Okay, cool, ship it." Like,
bro, why'd you send the B disc? We meant to send the A disc.
the one email that changed the game,
Yeah, exactly.
Where they emailed it and somehow it got lost.
In any case, it obviously slipped through the cracks because, as he said, they would have responded to it if they realized it was going to be that big of an issue.
I figure that, but
yeah.
I feel like hearing it all the time, I'd be like, that. Did I figure this out?
Although I did appreciate when I would do something like, "Hey, you did it right." I'm like, "Look at me. I'm so smart."
Well, that's different. But,
so
when
great.
you walk into a dungeon and it's like, oh my gosh, if you turn left, it's like, wait.
Yeah, like, I just got through the door, ma'am. Like,
yeah.
The other thing that I think is probably a bigger issue is playtesters. They're specifically trying to playtest a certain thing, so they're actually doing the puzzle, whereas many people are explorers with puzzle, like, ooh, what else can I do around here? Of course, things are going to get really talky in those instances because you ain't even going towards the puzzle.
Yeah, right. Well, playtesters are trying to break that.
They're trying to break it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they might have not even had headsets in. They might have just been like,
or the dialogue on.
Yeah, they might just had Spotify on, hours at a time, just trying to break it.
Or
like,
maybe they did have the dialogue on and they were trying to do all kinds of stuff. It's like, what would break the dialogue if I went here?
PlayStation.
would
Like, wait,
happen?
you guys had dialogue?
Yeah.
Have anything, like so.
All right, David, you got some news?
Yes. We found out that Ubisoft confirmed that it
Ubisoft.
doesn't. Ubisoft, yes, I mess that up all the time. Ubisoft confirmed that it intends to attend the revamped E3 Expo in LA this year, as they said, if it happens. So they got to throw that caveat in there of, we know that E3 has planned this before and canceled. So they're just like, we want to make sure that you understand we'll be there if there's something there to go to.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're the only ones who have said anything to that effect.
Now,
It's like you guys are the only
ominous.
ones
a lot from what I understand is there are some plenty of companies that they're going to talk about the lineup of. We're still waiting on that. I'm assuming it's just the whole, we want to get some of our confirmations totally in stone, and you want to get your big reveal moment in for, hey, this is who's going to be at E3 this year. Not to mention, I'm assuming that'll be somewhat coinciding with people signing up or buying tickets will be part of that. That being said, though, I'm very interested with. I'm glad that Ubisoft is putting out that they're going to be there, because that means that they have things to show. That means that some of these games that we are waiting for, Ubisoft has a better lineup this year than I think most people realize. When and that's just at least with Assassin's Creed Mirage. I would assume that's probably going to be there, and there's a good chance we're going to see whatever has come of Avatar, that game coming out, which I'm also pretty excited for. I'd also be interested to see if they somehow manage to bring Star Wars from Massive to E3, because they've said that they've at least made it sound like, some of the devs have made it sound like that this could be a big year. So maybe they're planning at least the first reveal of Star Wars, which makes sense. Ubisoft is not, we've talked about this before, not in a very good place as a company right now with all these things that have gone on. It makes sense to be like, hey, remember how much we suck? Well, guess what? We've got 1 billion games coming out that are awesome and you should buy them. That's a good way to make people forget all the things you just did, because it's a what have you done for me lately industry. And if you're promising a bunch of really cool games, then there's a good chance. Who knows? Maybe we'll Skull and Bones will get some sort of announcement at E3, since it's on indefinite hiatus or whatever right now. So
Is it coming out in March?
that got delayed. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, that was the latest delay.
It was delayed and then got delayed again. So this is like
that.
I think they said it's the 6th delay.
Yeah,
But I think it became indefinite. Maybe we will get the, what's the name of that one? The Prince of Persia reboot, whatever they were doing. Maybe we'll get the remake for Sands of Time or whatever it was.
I think it was Sands.
I believe it was Sands of Time.
Yes.
So, the thing is Ubisoft has a lot to show. So it makes sense that they're going to look to be a part of a big show. That's just what I think on the matter.
That's fair. There was that news that came out that they canceled a bunch of games, so because they were overloaded. So I guess they have that many games in development. So I'm down with trimming the fat. I hope those employees are still working there in some capacity. But yeah, I guess that is a whole lot of games for Ubisoft to be making, for them to cancel 7 games and then release between 2023 and 2024 a lot of games.
One of the biggest workforces in the industry. And
It is.
here's something I didn't even think about. If Ubisoft goes to E3, you're just about one of the biggest dogs there. Like, if Nintendo and Xbox and PlayStation isn't showing up, I mean, you're the draw at that point. So
Well,
why wouldn't you go? You're kind of
Well,
the belle of the ball.
they're going to be strutting up to E3 like, ha ha ha, look at us. Like, we're the big dog. And it's like, well, you kind
Then
of were big
Rockstar shows up,
default.
smacks him in the back of the head. We got GTA 6.
Yeah, like just
One
picks him up
game
by like
to take you
shirt
down.
and throws him. Yeah,
And then they're
I don't
like,
know.
but we got X Defiant.
Oh, yeah. I want to fall asleep again. Yeah, it
Peggle
just-
2.
my thought process was like, what like you guys canceled all of these titles, and then you're like, hey, we got a lot to show. I'm more intrigued at what they're gonna show, because they could have they have some potential for some great titles. It's just with all the problems that they've had recently, I would like to be proven wrong.
All
I
it takes
hope
is
they have
one
a
good
great-
showing. All it takes is
Yeah.
one good showing.
Yeah.
And all it takes
I-
is one bad release in
Oh,
that
yeah.
in that pile of games. All right, what's the other stuff you got?
All right. Last but not least, it looks like the Saints Row reboot cost Embracer over $100 million.
So
Sheesh.
so my first take away on that is, if that's what it costs to make video games, we're all effed. Everybody's effed.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, something like Returnal, from what I understand, it didn't cost nearly that much. I mean, look at that game.
It costs like 99.9 million, just a little bit. Like, it's fine.
Not quite 1 million, 100 million. No, that's insane. So to me, that's probably a lot of sunk cost development going on. Where
It
who
got
knows?
delayed a few times too, didn't it?
I think
Oh,
it
yeah,
did.
several times.
So that might have, that obviously would have increased cost.
It's that, and you can almost guarantee there's probably certain things that they changed along the way that it was like, oh, well, we're just going to have to eat that. Like you said, sunk cost.
Yeah, that's the only explanation for that game to be 100 million in development. That includes advertising, and I know they did do some advertising with that. I'm sure that includes other, different things besides just straight development cost. But that for that game to come out like that, costing 100 million, it makes me wonder how much other games cost to make.
Well, for reference, the Callisto Protocol, apparently over the 3-year development cycle, the cost translated to 160 million for Callisto. Like,
And
I don't know who is writing these checks.
More money, more
But-
problems.
Yeah,
It's
that's
just the thing of it.
insane.
There's some games that it makes sense to spend the money. There are the avatars of the industry of, yeah, I'm putting a ton of money in, but I know the rewards that I will reap from spending that kind of money on this.
Right.
But Saints Row, even a rebooted Saints Row, was not going to have that kind of selling power. Like, it just
I'm not
wasn't.
sure that's even a $50 million development
No,
cost game.
I mean, I could understand at least though 50. Like, but what stinks more than that is just the fact of it came out so rough. And this is coming from somebody I reviewed it. There was a lot wrong with that game. Co-op. Ron and I went 2 weeks after launch before we put up actually it was 1 week. But we
think
tried
it
for
was
2
2.
weeks to get co-op working and never got it working. Never got it
Oh.
working.
I didn't know that was the
we-
result.
Yeah, we tried very hard because we did not want to. We didn't want to be people that just we're honest. We want to make sure that we're honest, but we also don't want it to seem like we're just crapping on something.
Yeah.
And in all fairness, I gave Saints Row some good props. Like, it was fun to play, but it was dated and a lot of stuff didn't work.
Yeah.
So
That's all I'm saying, is that it looks like that. it played like it did, and it cost $100 million.
It just
If
feels
it
like
cost
100 million should have gone further.
Yeah, right. Exactly what I'm saying. Like Callisto Protocol, that looks like $100 million game. It just sucks. So that happens.
No.
This, doesn't add up.
Also, I feel like there's probably some mismanagement of funds. Like
somewhere,
yeah. I don't know how you drop 100 mil and get Saints Row.
Yeah.
I don't see it.
That version of it, for sure.
And it's probably, and I could see this, Volition is a respected studio. So it was one of those things where when they kept some of it was probably concepts that didn't work that ended up being sunk costs. But I would imagine some of it being hey, we want to do this. And Embracer just kept writing checks because Volition is Volition. And they hoped that it would be better. Oh, yeah. Oh, Embracer owns like half the industry.
I know, right?
But
so this was
Callisto was also Callisto was also very surprising with 160 million.
This is also the segue to the part of the podcast where David has his pitch on why he should run Embracer. So whenever you're ready to take the floor, David, I'll let you. I'll do your segue.
I'll mute myself and use all yours.
I ain't got the time to run these companies. I ain't got the time.
He can't run all of you, okay? Like
it's a monopoly. I'll be sued by the CMA because of a monopoly if I run them all.
David being exclusive is bad for the industry. Like
exclusive to GT, boys.
All right,
yeah, that's it for news.
Well, just so you guys know, it costs about $100 million to produce this podcast. So.
This is all we got out of it.
This is all you got. Sorry, guys. We're honest with you guys. This is a $100 million podcast, and this is what you got. Sorry.
If Noah would stop ordering caviar at the beginning of the episodes and eating it in his trailer.
It's like, no, you don't understand. I don't want a little. I want all of your caviar. Like,
oh gosh.
I mean, David's easy to please. Just give him some dry honey nut Cheerios. It'd be good.
There you go.
There you go. We got to put milk on it. Let his sticky fingers go to work. All right. We'll do it for us this week. We'll catch you next week. Thank you for watching. Appreciate you listening. We got tons of content coming on the Gaming Trend YouTube
$100 million worth.
50. That's a 50. This podcast took up a lot of that budget, so but you'll be able to find it all on the Gaming Trend YouTube channel, Gaming Trend videos, and just keep looking at gamingtrend.com for more stuff. All right, we'll talk to you later.
Peace.